Dust rose high above the parched earth of Red Rock, a small settlement caught between cattle trails and endless desert. Ranchers here worked themselves to the bone, fighting drought, rustlers, and loneliness. Among them was Jacob Turner, a struggling rancher barely keeping his herd alive. His debts piled high, his fences broken, and his hands calloused from endless labor. Folks whispered he'd never last the year. One hot afternoon at a town auction meant for livestock and supplies, Jacob's weary eyes fell on something unexpected. A young woman, fierce-eyed and unbroken, being offered as a mail-order bride nobody dared to claim. The auctioneer's voice boomed over the crowd. "This here girl's too wild for any man, stubborn as a Mustang, and no one's been fool enough to take her yet." Laughter rippled through the crowd, but the young woman did not flinch. She stood tall, her chin lifted, defiance blazing in her eyes. Her name was Rose Callahan, and her fiery spirit had earned her nothing but rejection. Men wanted obedient wives, not women who spoke their mind or challenged their pride. Jacob, bone-tired and desperate for help on his ranch, felt a strange pull as he looked at her. He hadn't come to town for a wife. He hadn't come for trouble either. But when the auctioneer shouted, "Does no man here have the guts to take her?" Jacob's voice surprised even himself. "I'll take her." The crowd erupted with laughter and disbelief. "Turner's crazy," someone muttered. "He can't even feed his cattle, and now he's buying himself a wild woman." Rose's eyes softened for the first time that day, studying the quiet rancher who had chosen her. She wondered if he knew what he had done, or if he too would regret it. They rode back to Jacob's ranch in silence, the sun casting long shadows across the barren land. Rose watched him from the corner of her eye, his strong hands gripping the reins, his face weathered by sun and hardship. At last she spoke. "Why'd you buy me? You don't look like a man searching for trouble." Jacob shrugged, his voice steady. "Maybe I'm searching for someone who knows how to fight. This ranch needs more than one pair of hands, and I reckon you're stronger than you look." Rose's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You might be the first man to think so." The ranch was rough, fences broken, cattle lean, fields dry. Rose wasted no time. She shed her dress for work clothes, rolled up her sleeves, and took to the tasks most men feared she'd scorn. She wrangled cattle with the skill of someone born in the saddle, mended fences with steady hands, and even outworked Jacob in the midday sun. The neighbors scoffed, calling her unladylike, warning Jacob she'd ruin him. But Jacob saw something else. He saw fire and grit, the same things that kept him going when everything around him threatened to break. At night, they sat by the fire, silence hanging between them like a fragile thread. Jacob was a man of few words, but Rose was never afraid to speak. She told him of her past, of being passed from one household to another, never fitting the mold, always called too wild. She spoke of her dreams, of a life not chained by expectations, but built by choice. Jacob listened, his rough hands still, his heart quietly stirred. For the first time in years, he felt less alone, as if the wide frontier wasn't quite so empty with her voice filling it. As weeks passed, Rose proved her worth again and again. When rustlers came in the night, it was her sharp eyes that spotted them first. She rode like the wind, firing warning shots that sent thieves fleeing. When drought cracked the earth, she dug trenches by Jacob's side, hauling water until her arms bled. The townsfolk who once mocked her now whispered in awe. Maybe Turner's wild woman was exactly what he needed. Yet still doubt lingered in some hearts. Could a ranch survive built on the back of a woman too fierce for taming? One afternoon, as storm clouds gathered, Jacob found himself watching Rose drive cattle across the field, her hair wild in the wind, her body moving as one with the horse beneath her. He realized then what the others never understood. She wasn't meant to be tamed. She was meant to be free, and in her freedom she gave strength to those around her. That night, as rain lashed against the cabin walls, Jacob finally spoke words that had weighed on his chest. "Rose, I didn't buy you to own you. I bought you because I think you were born to ride beside me." Her eyes widened, tears threatening but never falling. For so long, men had tried to silence her, to bend her spirit until it broke. But here was Jacob, worn and weary, telling her the truth she had longed to hear, that she was not a burden, not a mistake, but a partner. "Then let me ride beside you," she whispered, her voice steady as the storm. "Not behind, not beneath, but beside." Jacob nodded, his rough hand finding hers, the firelight catching the promise in their eyes. Outside, thunder roared, but inside, something stronger was born. The months ahead were not easy. The drought worsened, creditors pressed harder, and the ranch faced ruin more than once. But together, Jacob and Rose fought every battle. She brought new ideas, rotating grazing fields, trading bread she baked for supplies, even bargaining with neighboring ranchers with sharp words and sharper wit. Slowly, the ranch began to recover. Cattle grew stronger, fences stood taller, and Jacob's weary heart found strength in her relentless spirit. She was no longer the girl labeled too wild. She was the woman who refused to bow, who turned struggle into survival. Neighbors who once mocked now looked on with respect. They saw Rose ride out at dawn, rifle across her back, hair streaming in the wind. They saw Jacob ride beside her, quiet but steady, his strength magnified by hers. In church, whispers changed. Maybe Wild is exactly what Turner needed. Rose smiled when she heard them, for she knew the truth. She had not been born to fit into the box men built. She had been born to carve her own trail, and now she carved it with a man who understood her worth. One crisp autumn evening, Jacob surprised her with a new corral, freshly built. "For the horses you've been dreaming of," he said quietly. Rose's eyes shone as she led a Mustang into it, the horse snorting and pawing the earth. "She's wild," Jacob said, "like you." Rose grinned, her hand gentle on the animal's mane. "Not wild-free. There's a difference." Jacob watched her then, the fire of her spirit reflected in the twilight. In that moment, he knew that his struggling ranch had become something more. It had become home not because of the land, but because of her. By winter, the ranch had not only survived, it had thrived. Debt was paid, cattle fattened, and the townsfolk who once mocked now tipped their hats to Rose. She remained the same. Fiery, unyielding, proud. But now she had a place where her spirit was not a curse, but a blessing. Jacob, once a lonely rancher staring at ruin, had found not just a partner but a woman who matched him stride for stride. Together they built a legacy stronger than fences or cattle, a life born from respect, courage, and love. The legend of Jacob Turner and Rose Callahan spread across Red Rock. Men spoke of the rancher who bought a girl called Too Wild and found in her his salvation. Women whispered of the girl who refused to bow and became a symbol of freedom. But for Jacob and Rose, it was not legend, it was life. Every sunrise they rode together across the land side by side, partners in toil, in laughter, and in love. In the untamed Wild West, where survival belonged to the strongest, they proved strength came not from taming the wild, but from riding with it.